Welcome Bronco Nation, my game review for Boise State versus Utah State. I have to excuse the weird lighting in here today. I'm at my family's house for Thanksgiving, which is why also this video is coming out late. Was able to watch the game, but we had some family time afterwards. For me, family is always more important than football, so I had to do some family activities first, and now I'm getting to this late now that everyone's gone to bed. So let's get right into reviewing this game. It was an awesome win for Boise State on the blue to wrap up their regular season as undefeated Mountain Division champions, a chance to come in here to the Mountain West Championship game and win this conference overall, go completely undefeated on the season, but regular season 9-3. Remember, a team that last year went 7-5, had numerous Mountain West losses. This year turned everything around, which I don't think any of us saw coming at the beginning of the season with how it started for Boise State. It has been not just a revolutionizing of what this team was, but a miraculous turnaround for this team to end up 9-3 overall, just one game short of the 10-2 that I predicted for Boise State. Now coming into face Fresno State, who just finished off a nice win versus Wyoming. That is going to be a huge game coming up next weekend, but let's talk about this game, Boise State versus Utah State. Boise State winning this game 42-23. Now, that final score is not exactly reflective of how close this game was right at the end. With less than a minute and 20 seconds left in the game, Boise State scored 2 touchdowns to take a 5-point lead into a 19-point deficit to really put some nice statistical lining on this win here. So when people who don't watch the Mountain West go and look at the stats, they go, wow, Boise State had a really nice win. So it was a really nice win, but not necessarily as dominant as that final scoreline shows. And we'll talk about that here. We're going to go through offense, defense, and the special teams and give a grade to each of those units. And then we'll also talk about how Boise State fulfilled or did not fulfill my keys to the game. Let's get right into this then. So Boise State, like we said, beating Utah State 42-23. It was a really nice statistical offensive effort here by Boise State. 428 yards of offense, 220 passing, 208 rushing. So very balanced attack on both ends. Now, a big part of that rushing is the 91-yard run that Taylor Green had right at the end of the game to seal this win for Boise State. And that was the longest run from scrimmage in Boise State history. At least that's what they were saying on TV. I actually haven't gone in and gone through everything and confirmed that, but that sounds right. I know Doug Martin had a longer run than that versus Nevada in 2011, but it was called back due to penalties. So that sounds right to me. Anyway, regardless, it was an incredible run by Taylor Green. It's got to be at least the fastest 85-plus yard run in Boise State history because he looked like a track star out there. Absolutely ran to the outside, outran the defender, and there was no catching him at that point. Really a nice way to finish this game with an exclamation point as Boise State again builds momentum to go in and face Fresno State next weekend. So offense overall, like I said, 220 passing, 208 yards rushing. But if you take out the 91 yards rushing, it was only 107 yards rushing by Boise State until right there within a minute and 20 seconds left overall. We'll talk about that here. But let's talk about Taylor Green here. Not just a runner in this game, he was a passing machine, especially early on. 14 out of 23, 220 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, no picks. I think that this was his best passing performance of his career. I really wish that Boise State had leaned into his arm more throughout this game. I think he exploded on the scene in the passing game, and then they kind of went away from it, put a little bit more emphasis on the running game there, and that, I think, ended up hurting Boise State quite literally with Helani taking an injury, exiting this game. Now, hopefully, it's one of those things, overabundance, man, I'm all over the place here. That's what happens when you do late night videos. Overabundance of caution there with some kind of shoulder injury. Hopefully he's able to come back in 100% for Fresno State. But again, Boise State leaning more on that running game a lot throughout this game when they had a passing game going. I mean, let's talk about those receiving yards here. Caples, 4 receptions, 78 yards, a touchdown along a 50 on a beautiful, perfect deep ball, one of the best deep balls that Taylor Green has thrown all season. Billy Bowens, 1 reception, but it was an amazing reception in that he caught the ball for maybe a 7-yard pass, something like that, and then he turned upfield and he was gone right almost to the end zone there. I mean, right there within the 10, and tackled before Boise State able to push it in. But he has not necessarily been a huge yards after carry kind of guy. I mean, that's definitely been more the Cobbs and Caples kind of role, but he has been a very reliable receiver all season long, great in the deep ball, and he showed that he also has some speed and moves in the open field as well for that long run. And then McAllister, this was a guy I was so high on in the preseason when talking about guys who may become a part of this offense, new faces that Boise State might be able to lean on in a receiving core that had a lot of question marks after the departure of Khalil Shakir, and he has come on so strong here late in the second half of the season. He had 3 receptions, but 2 of those were touchdowns. I was really hoping he was going to get that hat trick. I think if Boise State had kept going to the passing game, I mean, the opportunities were there. He might have been able to get that hat trick, but 3 receptions for 40 yards, longer 25, 2 touchdowns, both beautiful just throws and catches on both ends there. You know, in the hands, clear control. One of them as he was about to go out of bounds, got 1 foot down. Another one in coverage, took some contact, held onto the ball again in the end zone. And Boise State really making an emphasis item of going and targeting McAllister here, and he has not let them down. I actually don't think that he's dropped a pass. And again, I'd have to go in and look at all the tape again, but I don't think he's dropped a pass this season. He has been so reliable for Boise State. Again, part of that future here for Boise State with Taylor Green, the freshman quarterback, and then freshman McAllister here as well. Well, let's talk about someone else who got involved in the receiving game just like he did last year versus Utah State. You had Matlock. Oh my gosh. What a touchdown by Matlock here. It only was a 1-yard touchdown, similar again to the Packers that they ran last year. But unlike that reception, which was he was wide open in the end zone, he actually had to outbattle a defender here, high point the ball as high point as you can to get as a big man, catch that ball up at the highest point that he could get to, and reel that in through contact. That was an amazing catch for a D lineman. I mean, he's a man of all talents. Obviously, he is a force to be reckoned with on that defensive line, but he also brings something to bear offensively when we managed to put him in there in those trick plays. What an amazing play. One of the best plays of the game. I mean, if Taylor Green maybe hadn't had that 91-yard incredible touchdown run, that might have been the offensive play of the game there. But you got to hand it to Scott Matlock being so diverse in his skill sets to be able to be a guy that you can line up, go after the quarterback and running back every single play, and then take him out and put him in the passing route and also get you a touchdown there. I love seeing big man touchdowns. Not fat, as the announcers pointed out, but a great big man touchdown there by Scott Matlock. Fantastic play. And then you also saw, using in the tight end games, you had Matt Lauder also getting used out there. 3 receptions for 38 yards, long of 29. Previously coming in this game, he only had 1 reception for 2 yards versus UTEP. He also a young player, a freshman here for Boise State. Again, part of that future of this offense. Boise State fans should start getting very excited. A lot of question marks there because obviously a lot of these guys are new and we don't know who that offensive coordinator is going to be. But whoever comes in to take the reins is taking over an offense that is showing a wealth of talent in the long-term future. Again, freshmen, sophomores making a difference here for Boise State. A lot of true freshmen making a major difference. You've got 3 or 4 years with these guys that you are going to be able to build something here. It's got to be a very exciting, very enticing job for offensive coordinators who might want to come in here and make a statement in the industry. This is going to be a very exciting next season for Boise State, but there's still one more big game left before moving on to the bowl season. Hopefully Boise State can continue to use this wealth of talent here on offense to push towards that Mountain West Championship game. Let's talk a little bit about how Boise State executed this offense before we give them a grade. Like I said, Boise State started off with the run, moved to the pass, which was so effective. Boise State, anytime they wanted it, really, a couple of stops there on 3rd down, but really anytime they wanted it, Boise State was able to get it done in the passing game, and then they went away from it, which was so confusing to me because I thought that they were playing so strong, and they kept, and there was several opportunities throughout the game where instead of taking the pass on like 3rd and 4, they tried to run it up the middle, and that was not effective. Boise State, I thought, should have stayed with the passing game. Remember, that was one of my keys to avoid injuries. Your running game is your strong point. Keep developing, keep building on that passing game in a game that doesn't have major implications. You can be a little more risky. And then when you have a quarterback like Taylor Green who is dropping dimes, keep using that arm. They kept running Taylor Green. I'm not talking about the last run of the game where they needed that, right? They needed that run to ice the game. They were probably just looking for a 1st down, and Taylor Green, because he's incredible, turned it into a touchdown. All they needed was a 1st down there, but they needed to use him in that running game. Absolutely endorse that run there by Taylor Green. But they kept running him here, even when Boise State had the lead in a game that they don't want their quarterback, their starting quarterback here, to get hurt because he is the focal point of your offense. You take him out, you lose the entire dynamic of what this offense brings. They kept running him at least 5 times there where they were running him. It wasn't very effective. Utah State had it shut down, and he was taking hits. The last thing you want to see is Taylor Green on a meaningless run where you don't need it, taking a hit, going down, and now becoming part of the litany here of players that got taken out in this game. I mean, Boise State's going to be facing a Fresno State team that is resurgent and actually is returning players, notably Jake Haener. You're going to be facing them with already a depleted defense and now some key players on offense getting hurt, notably there. Helani also had an offensive lineman go down. You don't want to add Taylor Green to that list. I did not understand that mindset running Taylor Green at this point in this game. It did not make sense to me until that final run. That one made sense. But in the early stages, especially when you have a couple touchdown lead, did not make sense to run Taylor Green in this. I really wish that they kept going to his arm. Maybe if they kept emphasizing the passing game, Helani wouldn't have gotten hurt. A lot of what ifs, but Boise State had the passing game working. It was clicking. You are developing something with Taylor Green. It's something that has not been necessarily his strongest point, and he was finally showing that he could be the passing quarterback as well as the running quarterback for Boise State, a multi-talented player here who developing something on offense, and I thought Boise State kind of took that away from him there in the second half when they could have kept leaning on that passing game for Boise State. But overall, it was a creative and explosive passing game, some nice runs overall in the running game as well. I really want to give this an A. I really do. But a couple things here. One, if you take away that last big run, the running game was not that effective in this game. They kept going to it when I think they should have focused on the passing game, but they kept going to the running game, and it wasn't really effective in this one. Only 170 yards there from the running backs. So you take away that big explosive play, now you're only about 107 yards rushing, which is not a good stat there from your guys that you're pushing the running game. You know, Ashton Genty, 14 carries, only 2.5 yard average. George Helani had a pretty nice runs there going before his injury, but then you get your starting running back hurt. That, again, I think is not a wise decision by, again, you're emphasizing that running game when you had the passing game working so much. So because of the decision-making by Boise State to move away from the passing game, not sticking with it the whole game, and this could have been a 300-plus yard passing game easily for Taylor Green. And then the decisions to put your quarterback in harm's way when he didn't need to, the decisions to keep pushing on the running game and put your running back, George Helani, there into harm's way, and then also the lack of effectiveness from the running game when they went to it, is going to keep them just about an A in my book here, B+ overall, but a very, very strong effort here offensively for Boise State. And it should excite Boise State fans that we are now showing that this team can go out and attack you on the ground, but also has a very, very effective weapon on offense that they can use. I mean, this was not just, Boise State getting lucky with bad coverage. These were beautiful passes, perfect passes by Taylor Green. It is so exciting to see him progress. Who would have thought that a quarterback that started the season the way that he did, very raw, with so much talent, could be coached up to the level that he has in just one season? I mean, you don't usually see guys, especially guys that are runners that have a propensity to run, improve so much in their passing game in one season. That is the hardest part to learn and to build as a quarterback because there's just so much complexity that goes into it. It's not always on you. A lot of it's got to do with timing with your wide receivers, and he has just developed such a rapport with these guys. It is incredible to see it coming on late here in the season, and exciting for Boise State fans when we look to the future of what Taylor Green brings to this program as his quarterback. Could easily, with the way that he started, stays 3 or 4 years, could easily go down as one of the best quarterbacks all time for Boise State. I think a lot of fans already see that when they look at what he brings to the table. They already say he's one of the most talented, but statistically as well, and historically, he could go down record-wise as one of the best quarterbacks all time for Boise State. Excited for the future of this young man. So B+ overall, just because of some of the decision-making there and the ineffectiveness in the running game, but overall, great effort here by the offense. Defense. Now this one, 468 yards given up in this game, 306 yards passing, 162 yards rushing. Really, Utah State was being very effective. After that kind of 14-point deficit, they really redoubled their effort, and they hit Boise State hard, especially in the second half. That's really when you saw the passing game start to tend to take over there for Utah State. Boise State really didn't have a lot of answers. Now, luckily, coming up, well, not luckily, but Boise State standing strong, because that's what this unit does when the team needs them. We saw it last week versus Wyoming, and we saw it this week versus Utah State. When the team needs them, they stand strong, and they get that win. And we saw that in this one for Boise State. But overall, they gave up a lot of yards, and that should be troubling, especially when you consider that this is not the best quarterback that Utah State even has on their roster. I mean, their starter is hurt. So you go up against a quarterback like Jake Haener with wide receivers, which I think are better than Fresno State's, with a running game, which I think is better than, wide receivers are better than Utah State's, with a running game that I think is better than Utah State's. Just a team overall that is better than Utah State. and you see what Utah State was able to do against Boise State, that should have a lot of alarm bells going off for this coaching staff and especially for this fan base when we look at what the defense might be facing in that game, especially considering the injuries. This was a really bad win as far as injuries go for Boise State. Obviously, great win, 42-23 on the blue. But when you look at what this game meant, I would have rather seen Boise State get out of this game with all their starters healthy and a loss than to win this game, but you lose so many guys that you're going to need big time versus Utah State. That is going to be more impactful in the long run here. Obviously, you never want to see a loss, but if you're having to pick, if you had to pick one or the other, I'd rather not see all these guys go down, and now you go up against Fresno State weakened and depleted when you need every man on the field that you can, every one of your starters. That is going to really hurt Boise State, and defensively lost a lot of guys in this game. You already had Noah Washington sitting this one out, but then Tyreek Jones goes down late with an ankle injury. Hopefully that isn't really major. He just came back off injury. It's his first game back in several games. Divine Obucheri goes down late. Defensive tackle number 91, Ahmed Hassini, he goes down with an injury. I mean, that is like two big guys. I mean, 91 has been big all year for Boise State. Obucheri's been big in the second half. All three of those guys are major players for this defense. They all go down in the second half. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise that Jalen Skinner had that horrible penalty called against him so that he wasn't part of this injury list. I mean, who knows what would have happened, but obviously, you don't want to say that. You want to see Jalen Skinner come out and perform. You saw how upset he was. I know that his family was so excited for this game. I know that he was excited for this game, a player that is so competitive, and it was such a terrible call. I mean, I put a little rant out there on Twitter. I know that some people responded, and you look and you watch the play and you read the rule book, you know, and you say, okay, letter of the law, could you have called targeting in that play? And obviously it was, and it was confirmed. You know, letter of the law, you can make a case for targeting, but that was a bang play. It was a play where he was not launching to hurt the player. He didn't hit him in the crown of the helmet or the neck. It was squarely in the chest. Did he lead with the crown of his helmet? Yes, but he actually lowering his helmet prevented him from running headfirst into the helmet of the opposing player. I don't know what you expect a defensive player to do in that play. He's trying to stop the receiver from catching the ball, separating the receiver from the ball. It was just one of those bang plays. It's what football's meant to be. It's not what this rule was put in place to take out. It was not in any way a dangerous play. It was just a hard hit by a hard-hitting safety. And I think if any other player on the field had made that play besides Jalen Skinner, I think they might have got away with it. But Jalen Skinner makes the play. He's got a target on his back because everybody knows that he's this hard-hitting, incredible safety, and the refs are looking for that. So far this season, he has skated by without nary a safety targeting called against him. But this game, unfortunately, on senior night, and you hate to see that. The good news for Jalen Skinner and the rest of this team, of course, is one more game on the blue. Boise State fans need to pack that one out, make it a home environment as it should be for Boise State here on the blue to really kind of give Jalen Skinner and the rest of these seniors that kind of last senior day experience again, especially for a player like Jalen Skinner who didn't get to experience that one in this game. I like that hit. I like that Jalen Skinner is bringing that intensity. I don't want him to drop off. I think you've just got to play the game and see what happens along the way. I didn't think it was a nasty hit. I didn't think it was a bad hit overall. Could you make the case for targeting? Yes. But was that targeting? Was that what the rule was put in place to take out? I don't think so. And I hated seeing that. But in the long run, he was out in the first half. He'll be back for Fresno State. He'll be rested. He'll be angry and ready to come in and prove something for his last game on the blue now. And he avoided being part of potentially that crop of injuries late in the second half. If the choice is, and you can't look into what ifs and what could have happened, but if the choice was Jalen Skinner gets taken out with a safety versus Jalen Skinner plays the whole game, but targeting, but Jalen Skinner plays the whole game and maybe gets taken out with an injury, I'd rather he is healthy and good to go, especially with how it kind of turned out there late for the Boise State defense. But that definitely hurt Boise State. I thought early on they were pretty good against the pass. We gave up some opportunities here and there. But deep ball overall, they were pretty good at defending that. But in the second half, especially the fourth quarter, they just fell apart, absolutely fell apart. Several deep balls given up there, and even the short passing game. And anytime Utah State wanted to throw the ball, I mean, they threw the same play like 3 times in a row, and it was just a little comeback route on the left side, and it was open every single time. So Boise State really has struggled all year against the pass. They haven't played a lot of teams that are great at passing. That's helped them not look quite as bad as they are. When they have faced teams that have a competent quarterback, when they face teams that have good wide receivers, They have struggled to stop the pass, and Boise State is coming up against a team that's not just competent, but very good at passing the ball with one of the best quarterbacks, maybe the best quarterback passing-wise in the Mountain West. This is a game that Boise State is going to have to look at, see what they can fix, what they did better, hopefully get some of these starters back, hopefully get Tyreek Jones back, Jalen Skinner comes back in hungry, get these guys back for Fresno State and figure out something. I think it comes with just applying more pressure. You know you don't have the guys necessarily to cover, so apply that pressure and give them limited time. We'll talk about those keys to the game when we start previewing that Utah State game next week. But Boise State's going to have to figure out something to put some pressure on Fresno State and maybe help out their secondary because they are struggling right now. And that was a big part of this Utah State comeback. Now, however, it was also the secondary that won this game for Boise State because Boise State, in the end, when it mattered, Gabe Hunter, interception, 4th and 9, not just deflects the pass, one-hand deflection, pulls it down, interception there for Gabe Hunter. Boise State, back to the way, scores. Utah State's not going to win at this point. They're really just trying to maybe, make it look a little bit better. And then Shea Oladipo, who played really for his first major game time of the whole season. I've met his family. They're wonderful, wonderful people. I love Shea Oladipo. I talked about him in my preview for the secondary for the season. I was really excited to see what he could do. He hasn't, I think, gotten the attention that he's deserved this year. He got it today, and he made the most of it. I mean, he had a great game overall. He had 9 tackles, but then he has an interception on basically the last play of the game, one of the last plays of the game there. Returns an interception for a touchdown, 48 yards. I love the fact that he could have gone down. I mean, a lot of players in that situation, especially if they were the primary starters, would have gotten the interception and just gone on the floor, sealed the game, that's it. But I love the energy. I love the fact that he said, this is my chance. This is my opportunity. I'm given time to play. I'm going to make the most of it. And he took that ball all the way. He was not to be denied. Got it into the end zone for a touchdown to give this Boise. And that was important. When you look at Boise State, they get the interception. He takes a knee. Boise State kneels out the clock. And now it's only a 12-point overall swing. And that's not necessarily a dominant win. Boise State gets a dominant win here that will get Boise State people who, again, when you're countering East Coast bias, one of the few ways that you can do that is you put up a significant statistical performance. So when they go and they're scrolling through their feed and they go, oh, Boise State, oh wow, they crushed them, and then they'll scroll on by. But that helps put that little seed in their mind that Boise State is back. They are a competent and strong team, and I should think about them a little bit maybe when I'm writing my AP poll or when I'm writing my article or when we're talking about this team and we're promoting teams that can make a run, especially next season. You want those dominant wins. They are so important in this modern era of biased college football with biased human voters. Without the BCS poll there to back up with the computers, you've taken all of the facts out of it. Now it's just human emotions and human feeling. The facts don't matter. What matters is giving people a reason to say, hey, this team is exciting. That is what happened in this game. Oladipo returning this for a long touchdown interception return. First pick 6 of the year for Boise State. That was so exciting to see here. And I loved seeing him getting some playing time. Another player who got playing time today who hasn't played much at all was Simpson. Andrew Simpson taking over again, kind of helping with Noah's spot there because he's not playing. The linebacker, a freshman, 10 tackles today. He had 10 tackles overall. He had a sack. He had 2 tackles for loss and 2 passes defended. He was all over the field. Schramm is going to be the player of the game defensively because, 15 tackles. He was all over the field. He's been the best player defensively for Boise State all season. But really the standout player for me, and again, part of that list of young players for Boise State that are building this team for next season, Andrew Simpson. That is a guy, as a true freshman, to go out there and play the way that he did today, because it wasn't just tackles. He was getting in the backfield, and he also got passes defended. That also shows awareness overall, not just speed and athleticism. This is a player to keep an eye on when you start looking at guys who could have a big impact for Boise State's defense going forward into next season. That is a guy to keep an eye on. I was so excited to see what he was able to do today. So overall, too many injuries, too many yards, but when Boise State needed it, they got this win. Boise State defense has helped Boise State win these last two games. You could probably say that they've won the last two games for Boise State, but Boise State has really been kind of keeping their fans up. They've been making sure that they stay engaged and focused in the game and maybe have a 911 emergency number ready to go in case those heart palpitations get too fast, because Boise State is coming down to the end of the stretch of the season in an exciting manner. They are 9-3, a chance to get to 10-3, even 11-3 potentially here for Boise State. Is an exciting end to this season. Defense overall, I'm going to give them a B. It's going to be a B- because there was a lot of yards given up here and a lot of injuries, and that is not going to play well for Boise State going up against Fresno State. But when it mattered, this team got it done defensively and won this game for Boise State in the end. So outstanding job overall by the defense, even if they did give up a lot of yards against a Utah State team that has not necessarily been a dominant offensive team. Boise State's got a lot of things to fix, a lot of things to look at going into Fresno State, but a great effort overall to win this game for Boise State in the end. All right, last unit here before we look at my 3 keys of the game real quick. Special teams. You're really kind of one of those non-factors a little bit, which is okay. You know, they always say that special teams is one of those units that if you're talking about them is usually a bad thing. So special teams overall, no field goals. Ferguson, I thought, had a nice game. 7 punts for 34.9 yards, which isn't a lot, but a lot of those were kind of short punts. He had 3 inside of the 20, so they were purposefully shorter punts. He had a long of 45. I just thought that overall it was another nice little kind of notch in his belt as he continues to build on his skill set here. Of course, playing the American football game at the collegiate level for the first time ever, always a punter coming in. I really like what he's brought to the team this year and how he has developed, and I thought this was a good game for him overall. No significant punt returns. Dudley doing another fantastic job in the kick return. I loved him being there last game, and I liked what I saw out of him in this one. 2 returns for an average of 26.5, a long of 37. I really liked what I saw out of him today. And then Utah State, no long returns. They also blocked their own kick, so unfortunately that doesn't go on our team for blocking that. They kicked it right into the back of their up men or to the offensive lineman there. So Boise State doesn't get credit there for that blocked kick because it was just a missed one. Kicking it. No, they didn't miss. They missed the field goal, but they didn't miss their men. But Boise State overall, solid B effort. Nothing bad, nothing fantastic. Just a solid, great B effort over here by Boise State special teams. Real quick here, how did Boise State perform against my 3 keys of the game? Well, number 1 was focus. Make this game a priority. Don't let Fresno State overshadow. Boise State came out here and they looked like they were playing to win. They didn't look like they were adjusting their game strategy all that much, and maybe a little too much. We'll talk about that with the second key here. But overall, Boise State was focused and intent on winning this game, getting that undefeated regular season Mountain West record and a win on senior night. A+ overall. Second key, avoid injuries. I listed all the guys that went down. What did I say? 5 people, 5 or 6 guys that ended up taking the injury in this one. So it was a tough game overall for injuries. Hopefully none of these are major significant injuries. Boise State can come back and get these players back into the game. So overall, F for avoid injuries. And again, part of that, it wasn't just, rest your starters. Part of it was adjust your game plan so you don't put your stars in harm's way. Boise State did not do that one. They were focused on getting the win, focused on ending the season strong, building some momentum for Fresno State. All that's fine and good. But now you got to kind of look at some of the consequences of that decision, and Boise State's going to be having some tough questions to answer if these guys can't come back and compete for Fresno State, and who is going to step up and take their place. Luckily, this is a team that has a lot of surprises and a lot of strength on this roster. Hopefully, if some of these guys aren't able to come back, that those guys will step up and be the playmakers for Boise State here versus Fresno State. But this is going to be a tough one when you're looking at the cost of this game. You got the win, but what did it cost for Boise State? Third key was play for more than this game. I listed a litany of things that Boise State can play for in this game, and they looked focused. They looked like they had every one of those on their mind. Boise State came out and they played outstanding this one. They won a great game here for Bronco Nation, and they came out solid, focused. Didn't avoid injuries, but they played for more than just this game for sure. You knew that this was pride. You knew that this was a chance to go out on senior night on the blue and play for a chance for that undefeated season record and really completely and totally erase the taste of last year. This was a traditional Boise State win as far as coming out and putting away a conference team and a great season overall for a classic season for these Boise State Broncos. So on to Fresno State. It's going to be a tough matchup, and we all know that. It's going to be an exciting one. I can't wait to preview that game. Make sure you like, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be back in my regular studio space to preview that matchup. So thanks for sticking with me. Sorry again, this one came out late, but thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and as always, go big! Boo!